Hi everyone, and welcome to the Value Prop. This is going to be episode 2. As I mentioned before, the Value Prop is a series of shows bringing guests from around the region, from the many member states of APEC, and really giving an up-to-date insight as to what's going on in the country and what are the positive stories that are being told and experienced despite the COVID pandemic. So episode 2 is Launch in the Philippines. So we're looking at sharing best practices, how to open a business, how to start a business in the Philippines. And we're really pleased to be supported by Made in the Philippines campaign of the Philippines Marketing Agency. And today we're going to be joined by Jojo Flores, co-founder of Plug and Play Tech Center, who's also the co-founder of Launch Garage. Alongside him as his co-other founder is Jay Fajardo. And as always, we welcome Miguel Aboitiz, my co-host for all of these shows, and thanks for watching today. Enjoy. So welcome back everybody, and today we're going into the second episode, continue our theme on the Philippines with our Value Prop show, which is brought to you by PBEC, and it's a great pleasure to have my co-host here again with me today, Miguel Aboitiz, down in the Philippines. And Miguel, who have we got on the show today?
Well, we've got Jojo Flores of Launch Garage and Jay Fajardo of Medify.
Perfect. And so, Jojo, I really would like to start with yourself. Obviously, not just Launch Garage, but co-founder at Plug and Play Tech Center as well. And that obviously officially started back in 2006. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, a bit of your own background, and then how you've come to be involved with both Plug and Play and Launch Garage, Jojo? And great to see you.
Great to see you too, Michael. And Miguel, thanks for having me, and happy to be here. So Plug and Play had its early beginnings in the late 90s in a small building along University Avenue in Palo Alto. Everyone called it the Lucky Building because startups like Google, Logitech, PayPal, Danger started in that office space. It was a very interesting time for us since we were able to engage with them not only as landlords, but also as investors. So when the opportunity came for us to scale this business, I bought a 17,000 square meter building in Sunnyvale and opened Plug Play Tech Center in 2006. Fast forward to today, the campus, pre-COVID, houses at any given time at least 300 startups. We now have over 1,000 investments in our portfolio with 13 unicorns, including Dropbox, Lending Club, N26, Honey, among others. Since we've since expanded to about 20 countries in 35 locations. And aside from being an early stage investor, we've also been able to build the largest accelerator platform for tech startups, accelerating over 2,000 startups a year in 17 industry verticals, working with over 520 conglomerates globally now.
Jojo, can you give us some perspective and figures about Plug and Play?
Great. As an accelerator, we essentially provide tech startups with heightened access to mentors, investors, and potential corporate partners. Since inception, our investment portfolio, for instance, have raised additional money in excess of $9 billion. I mentioned that we work with over 500 conglomerates globally. Essentially, we help these conglomerates to augment their innovation strategies by introducing them to the best startups worldwide. We see at least 20,000 startups globally per year and have been able to curate at least 25,000 of the best so far. Our corporate partners can either do POC or proof of concept projects with these startups, or license their technologies, or invest in these startups, especially if these corporates have CVC arms or corporate venture capital arms.
And now we're going to turn to Jay. But before I do, maybe Jojo, can you introduce Jay? And then that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I've known Jay since we were in first year grade school. So we've literally grew up together. Uh, I usually tease him because he was the geek in our batch. So he's the techie guy. So everything, he when we were kids, he used to take calculators and computers apart. I don't know whether he could bring them back together, but certainly took them apart. So Jay and I caught up again a couple of years ago, and I let Jay introduce Launch Garage and what we've been up to since.
All right, thanks for that, Jojo. Michael and Miguel, thanks for inviting us to speak today. And thanks for that intro, Jojo. That was pretty, how do you call it, revealing intro. And yes, I was always the tech curious back in school. And it was fortunate that Jojo and I has found ourselves meeting in the same path since we saw each other last in school. Georgia and I, in 2016, put together an innovation hub called Launch Garage, which was a physical accelerator of sorts. It was a platform where we could actually not just accommodate Philippine startups to participate in our accelerator program, but provide a physical venue for different types of support initiatives, such as, let's say, educational lectures, meetups, venues for founders to get together and collaborate. Also, it's a venue for investors to meet our founders during our what we call our Super Collider sessions. These are deal flow sessions where a series of startups we choose get to pitch in front of a panel of investors, and hopefully these investors find these startups interesting enough for them to invest in. So that basically is Launch Garage in a nutshell. Over the years, we've been able to bring in right now about 25 startups in our portfolio. And at the same time, we've also played the role in trying to establish and run business incubators and accelerators within a network of universities around the country. So those are the things that we've been doing over the years, and so far so good.
And Jay,
And what?
obviously, your backdrop speaks for itself, and we're in COVID times still. The pandemic continues for most people, especially in Asia, where international borders are closed. Can you tell us a little bit about your own scale-up company for like accelerator in Medify? What is that about? What is it that you were hoping to achieve with bringing this product to market?
Sure. Medify was actually founded in 2014. I have a co-founder. His name's Freddy Gonzalez. He used to be a professional soccer player locally, and the motivation to actually build this startup came out from his need to consult with his doctors for his injuries. And it turns out that his doctor was based out of San Francisco, and a telehealth application or a way for patients to consult with doctors beyond distance or beyond geographical borders was actually a good value proposition. So it actually was born out of a real need. And we got together. I played the role of the CTO at the time, and we built the platform. Now, over the years, we've been we've been running Medify as a closed beta system, trying to learn what the patients really need, how the doctors perform. And it just turns out that when we relaunched in August of 2019, this new version of Medify, this was actually a just, it sort of like was the perfect time to play a major role when the pandemic came rolling around the next year in March. And that's actually a very interesting story because if we had some kind of challenges trying to introduce technology to the medical practice in the past couple of years, 2020 just gave it a life of its own. The value proposition just became obvious, and both the side of the doctors and the side of the patients just took to it, and it just took off from there.
Fantastic. So Jay, having found that company yourself, but then being previously involved and still involved with Launch Garage, how has that ecosystem, I guess, helped you as a person, with such a product during COVID times where I guess you couldn't come together physically so much? What has been some of the takeaways so far in the last sort of 14 months or so since this relaunch?
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess one of the big realizations that we experienced was the fact that we could work from home. Our organization was already built in such a way where we had our systems in place that turns out would thrive in a remote work environment. A lot of engineering happens in the work from home context. So far so good. Product development, even hiring new people or growing the team. We had to do that during the pandemic and during the quarantine. We have some members that we haven't met physically. Maybe some we met prior to the quarantine, but we've had some hires that we've never met face to face. So it sort of like validates it. Right now, we're very comfortable working in this mode. Being a digital platform, I guess that played a big role in our ability to thrive in this type of environment. You don't need a physical product. There's no real physical marketing. Nobody's really out there to see any kind of billboard, anything like that. And it's purely digital engagement so far. And I think moving forward, it's a validation of what's to come in terms of business.
This episode was supported by Make It Happen in the Philippines, the ideal investment destination. Located within one of the world's fastest growing economies, the Philippines is an ideal investment destination, offering businesses unique access to a large consumer market and excellent trade options both within Asia and beyond. Our business-friendly laws attract international companies into the Philippines, and with a government committed to creating a business-friendly landscape, there has never been a better time to make it happen in the Philippines.
Welcome back to the Value Prop. Jojo, what qualities do you look for in companies or their founders for Launch Garage?
Both for plug and play and for Launch Garage, basically there are 3 T's that guide us. As early stage investors, the most critical aspect we look at is the team. I'd say this is 70% of my investment criteria. First, they have to be a team. We don't like solo pilots who drink their own Kool-Aid. We like to see a team with a complete or almost complete DNA, with a strong tech background and domain expertise. If they have advisors and mentors, better. The most challenging part of this, though, is guessing how confident you are in the execution capability of the team to do what they say they'll do. Things like, do I see fire in their eyes? Do I feel passion in their hearts? So these are the things on the team side. Second, distraction. We need to see that they're not building a product in a bubble. Like any product, it has to have customers. So they need to show me that, or they need to show me data showing that there's proven product market fit. They need to show data on the unit economics as well as a proven business model. And third is technology, of course. You know, after all, we're investors in tech companies. So after looking at the problem and how big that problem is, what technology was used to solve the problem? You know, how creative was the application of that technology, and also important, how defensible is that technology solution?
So Joe, have you got anything to add? You know, obviously to what Jojo's been commenting there, because obviously I think there's different contrasts to having listened to others before in how they evaluate prospective new portfolio companies. What's your sweet spot, Jay? What areas or sectors do you find the most attractive so far in your short history, I guess, at Launch Garage? What are the sectors that have attracted you guys? Obviously tech dominant, but any particular sectors besides Medi side, which we've just discussed?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, aside from, let's say, health tech, which is becoming super relevant nowadays, I guess it's the, you'll have to spot different verticals based on the context that we operate in. And we're in the Philippines. Just so happens a lot of projects that have a huge potential to succeed are based on the fintech side. Financial technology, digital payments, etc. Remittance, of course, because of our unique experience in terms of a side market of migrant workers. But in terms of verticals, definitely fintech, and I think that's a sort of like a lazy answer because it's just it's an obvious answer for the Philippines. However, we want to see more projects coming out of the agritech space, because we're an agricultural country for sure. It seems like the Philippines is a big market that can be tapped to test different how do you call this, proofs of concept, whether it's digital, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's edtech, etc. Because of the size of our market, which is not it's nothing to be sneezed at. It's smaller than Indonesia, but it's big. It's a huge market, and it's actually a good market to test new projects because of our ability to, or our affinity for the English language. So if you've got startups coming in from the West, there's really no need to localize yet. So it's an easy market to use to test different projects, different types of products. At the same time, I guess going back to your question, what are our ways of spotting successful startups, perhaps? I mean, I have a sort of like a checklist that I like to go through, a mental checklist. And it sort of like validates the feasibility of a project very simply, very easily. I guess the first one is, do you have a co-founder? Because if you have a co-founder, that means you've managed to convince somebody other than yourself that this is a good project. So do you have a co-founder? Have you built a team already, at least a basic team? Again, it's the same logic. You've convinced these people to sign up to work on the project with you. Have you rolled out an MVP, at least a prototype? Are people using the prototype already? And I guess the final validation is, have people actually opened up their wallets to pay for use of that prototype? And this is an increasing tier of questions that sort of like gives you plus points as you go higher, as you check them off. And I guess the final one would be, have you raised money with this project? Because these are all validation points, really. And if founders are able to answer those points, even 3 out of 5, 3 out of 6, I think that's a pretty good project to back and to bring into Launch Garage too.
Is that part of your offering? Is educating startups and entrepreneurs about what they could be entitled to in terms of helping their business thrive?
Yes, yeah. Launch Garage as an accelerator, we try to help out the founders and entrepreneurs really focus on their business. So we try to assist them with the other ancillary activities like legal, accounting, HR, aspects of doing business as a startup. Uh, we don't necessarily handle it for them, but we've been able to establish a network, a couple of startup-friendly firms that can help them with these activities. Finally, the hard work uh, still is the responsibility of the startup founders and the team. But at least all of these other headaches we can take it out of their plate, or we try to help them out. So I'd like to mention also that unlike other incubators or accelerators in the country, the relationship that we have with our portfolio companies in Launch Garage is evergreen. Uh, our other colleagues in the business normally have fixed periods of incubation or acceleration, like 6 months or 1 year. This isn't the case at Launch Garage. So we take advisory shares also in each of these portfolio companies. So the effect is it's in our best interest to build value together with these entrepreneurs and founders.
And what can you say about the Philippines? What is the value to a startup or investor? What makes it attractive? What are the opportunities here?
Well, that's a great question. I wanted echo some of Jay's points earlier. I find that there's really tremendous industry growth verticals in the Philippines, not only for investors but for entrepreneurs, as you said. First is financial services. There's still a huge potential for financial inclusion in the Philippines. E-wallets such as GCash, with over 30 million users, is one great example. However, e-wallets is just one fraction of financial inclusion. There are other segments like micro lending, peer-to-peer lending. There's micro insurance. There's micro or mobile banking, savings, investments, especially for the unbanked and the underbanked sectors. The second one is the overseas Filipino workers market, or the OFWs. Aside from better solutions that address remittances, there's still a significant gap to tackle e-commerce, for instance, in this market. We need solutions for employment matching, as well as safety and well-being of our OFWs. The third segment I would say is ITO, or ITO and BPO, or IT and business process outsourcing segments. We need better AI and ML, or machine learning enabled solutions to better serve and protect this market segment. We need better tools, HR tools, for more efficient searching, screening, hiring, and retention of these workers. And as Jay mentioned, lastly, I feel that we're neglecting opportunities in the food and ag tech space in this country. I really feel that we can build technology around sustainable and organic farming, for example, or increased food production yields. Okay, I think we have the talent to produce solutions like protein supplements, sugar replacements, and the like. So So these are the areas I think are growth opportunities, not just for investors, but also for entrepreneurs here in the country.
And obviously, Jojo, you've touched on an area that you think there could be growth there in terms of agritech. And it's interesting you mention that, because I was talking recently to KPMG in New Zealand ahead of, obviously, APEC is being chaired by New Zealand this year, for those listeners who aren't aware, in 2021. And it's a virtual year for the first time on the back of Malaysia's chairmanship last year. And New Zealand obviously is known itself as an export of agricultural goods and services. And that is an area that they have been focusing on in build up, I guess, to highlighting what they have to offer during APEC. And it would, I guess, in some ways, what I'm saying is Philippines and New Zealand could potentially look at these areas to partner up, especially under other, trade agreements like RCEP that's been brought out, or CPTPP that's been getting more attention, with UK asking to join this week shortly after their Brexit. So these are interesting observations that you're saying, because sometimes it's better to collaborate on an international scale to take advantage of cheaper labor costs, cheaper production costs in the Philippines, but then using the higher tech which may be already available in New Zealand to then sell to the Chinese. Who knows? So there's lots of things here that could be of interest to our viewers today to explore how to grow the agri-tech sector together. So coming on to that, Jojo, obviously we touched upon the government, and obviously the government have got a limited ability in a lot of ways to do other than advice and sort of give the foundations for something for the private sector to take on board. But what are you seeing in particular from the Philippines government, I guess, in a COVID recovery that is going to continue to help the startup, the scale-up SME scene in the Philippines? Jojo.
Yeah. Well, let me focus on one thing that the government, I think one of the major moves of the government, which happened 2 years ago in April of 2019, when President Duterte signed Republic Act 113377, putting the Innovative Startup Act into action. So the lead agency for this Republic Act is the DOST, or Department of Science and Technology, which coordinates with the government offices, namely the Department of Trade and Industry and the Department of ICT. So, and the goal is to create and execute on programs, benefits, incentives for startups and enablers like Launch Garage to develop the Philippine startup ecosystem. There are many stipulations in this program, including R&D and training grants, a startup venture fund for startups, and financial facilities for startup ideation, product development, marketing, as well as access to local and international markets. It will also work with agencies like the Department of Education and the Commission for Higher Education, for various educational programs, and training for the youth. And as well, it works with the Department of Foreign Affairs for special working visas, which will be granted for foreigners to incentivize global talent to establish startups and work here in the Philippines to enable this technology and skills transfer. A lot of these initiatives have been started in the country, so I'm really bullish and confident that it will enable more startups in the Philippines.
Nick.
Okay, looking ahead, how has COVID changed the way you think, or how your other co-investors think about your portfolios?
COVID actually just did its own, how do you call this, validation process for everybody else. I mean, the businesses that that were weak just stopped operating or went dormant, and a lot of these were businesses that were very focused on people having to be mobile, to visit retail points of sale, etc. Um, they just realized that they couldn't do business, and they sort of faded away. The ones that survived and thrived um, were the ones that were very strong in terms of digital, um, and and not just digital, but at the same time their own the founder's personal ability to adapt and to pivot. Um, so much of these, looking forward, I was just thinking about this. The COVID actually gave us a glimpse of what business will look like in the next 5 years. It accelerated it. It gave us a. I'm pretty sure a lot of businesses and people and startups in our portfolio will try to attempt to go back to the way things were, um, try to operate. But I think that consumer behavior and market behavior has been affected very drastically and fundamentally. Um, and this market is what's going to exist after COVID, and this market is going to be adverse to handling cash. This is a market that's going to be very frugal. It's a market that has realized what the important things in life are, what the luxuries in life, and at the same time, economically, a lot of people won't be capable of spending on what we used to spend on. Um, but things will fundamentally change. Movies, um, streaming. There's so many things that suddenly just came to light during COVID, and like I said, it's a glimpse of things to come in the next couple of years.
Yeah, just adding on to what Jay said, like many crises that we've faced in the past, I think COVID has taught us in the startup scene to refocus on business fundamentals, like clearer paths to being cash flow positive and of course profitability. It has reminded us to be more mindful of customer sentiments and changing consumer behavior. Uh, there are silver linings to this COVID challenge, as Jay said, and it certainly has accelerated trends which many large companies have been putting in the back burner for many years. I'm sure many of you have been hearing this move towards digital transformation, which was a buzzword, but not now. It's now really embraced by a lot of the companies, and you really have to have that in your as part of your strategy at the least. Now, moving forward, I'd like to take this opportunity to share with you one last thought on approaching innovation in business organizations. Uh, I think we have this term we call open innovation or open collaboration. The typical approach of many companies is to try doing things on their own, even though it's not their core competency. I'd like to share with you my own personal experience with Daimler Mercedes-Benz, who's been our corporate partner in Stuttgart for the last 5 years. I remember then Chairman Dieter Seche telling us that the value of the car today, that was 5 years ago, was 80% hardware and 20% software. But that will reverse 10 years from now, he said. And he also said, guys, Daimler is an excellent steel bender, okay? but they don't know software. So they asked us to partner with them to create startup Autobahn, which would search for the best software in the world for connectivity of the car, autonomous driving, electric vehicle and battery technology, as well as ride sharing. Okay. Now we have the best open mobility acceleration platform or program in the world with other car manufacturers like Porsche, Hyundai, and Rolls-Royce, as well as the University of Stuttgart, BASF, Jardine, British Petroleum, DHL, among others, as part of that mobility acceleration program. In the end, our belief and mission is that innovation and technology is best vetted and accelerated if we're open to collaboration. So this is my wish, not just for Philippine conglomerates, but for a lot of the Asian conglomerates, and to understand and hopefully accept and embrace.
This episode was supported by Make It Happen in the Philippines, the ideal investment destination. Located within one of the world's fastest growing economies, the Philippines is an ideal investment destination, offering businesses unique access to a large consumer market and excellent trade options both within Asia and beyond. Our business-friendly laws attract international companies into the Philippines, and with a government committed to creating a business-friendly landscape, there has never been a better time to make it happen in the Philippines.
So Jojo, obviously to sort of conclude it, I mean, some of the other key industries, if you like, that the Philippine government is targeting, and with a new slogan, I must admit as well, that was soft launched back in November. I'm not sure if you've heard of it yet, but the slogan is "Make it in the Philippines," and as a place to invest and to obviously to manufacture. So some of the other sectors like aerospace, copper, you've just mentioned automotive there, and obviously coming from an IT background, and electronics, typically, the fundamental parts of manufacturing electronics is still a growth segment, I would have thought, because it's still very much supporting the software side of house as well. Any comment on any of those? Do you have, I guess, portfolio companies, whether it's in plug or play or launch garage, which cross over into some of these other sectors that the government is keen to promote in the Philippines?
Manufacturing, I think one industry vertical that comes to mind to me that affects very much manufacturing and collaboration between companies, between countries in terms of manufacturing is supply chain and logistics.
Yeah.
Okay. There's been a lot of movement in terms of new software that handles planning, that handles tracing, and not just with also aided with blockchain, actually, with blockchain technologies. So this is what there's a lot of companies that we're seeing in this space right now, and we've actually invested in at Plug and Play. Not so much yet in the Philippines. In the Philippines, it's more of supply chain and logistics address more of last mile deliveries. Okay, not necessarily on the manufacturing side. So, but I think one interesting thing that we should be looking at as a country, manufacturing is very related to energy. So that's another industry vertical that has been very interesting for us. Energy and sustainability, finding a lot, software for grid management, as well as solutions for alternative sources of energy. And we are in the process of engaging actually with a lot of the energy companies here in the Philippines, as well as abroad, obviously, so that we can so that we can introduce to them some of these interesting startups. Uh, one sector that we're also seeing that is kind of related with the energy or affected by energy and sustainability is in the area of smart cities. Uh, so a lot of these programs we run here in Asia, although it's been, all of the energy and sustainability, food and agtech programs, as well as smart cities. We just launched them 1-2 years ago. So we're still in the process of building corporate partners to join those platforms. But certainly we have a lot of startups coming, not just from Asia, but I think interestingly enough, from the US and from Europe, so we can bring those technologies over here for applications in these various fields.
Thanks, Jojo. I mean, Jojo, you should probably be talking to Miguel if it's coming up with energy collaborative partnerships and also remittance pay partnerships as well, which is a space that Miguel's close to his heart. So Miguel, what about, typically we like to ask our guests a final question related to the title of our show. I'll leave you to it, Miguel.
Yes, Jojo, what value does plug and play and Launch Garage bring?
That's a great question. I think the value of plug and play and Launch Garage is really the platform that we're trying to build. As I don't know if I mentioned it, but we believe that innovation should be available to everyone anywhere. If not, then it's only an invention. I call it only an invention. It's not innovation. And in order for us to achieve that vision, the mission that we have, that we are trying to build, is this platform where like-minded, best minds can collaborate, can connect and collaborate. I think that's really the value that both Launch Garage and Plug and Play can offer to the ecosystem, is to create this platform.
Thank you for that.
And Jay, I was just going to ask, how far along do you think you are in that creation process?
Creation process
to Jay, to the platform that Jojo alludes to. So you said it's all about building a platform. How far along have you built the platform so far, and how far have you got to go, do you think?
Well, over the years, we've actually added the different components that Jojo described. Just if I may continue to what Jojo was saying about the role of Launch Garage. Everybody knows that entrepreneurs need some kind of support systems, whether it's mentorship, paths to investors, paths to human resource, etc., etc. The role that Launch Garage as an accelerator plays, and Plug and Play as well, is institutionalizing this support system. Because what a business person or an entrepreneur would normally do himself, try to look for mentors, look for partners, look for on his own. Accelerators like us would precisely do that. We accelerate the experience of the entrepreneur. We have a structured. We put things into structure. We have a mentors network. We actually make it easy for investors to see their businesses, or for the businesses to meet investors, etc. So it's really institutionalizing this support system that entrepreneurs really need and hunger for. And over the years, that whole concept of accelerators has matured um, to include all sorts of things, even the corporate partnership side, which Plug and Play has pioneered. Um, um, Outside of that structure, a businessman like myself or an entrepreneur like myself would have to knock on doors and pound the pavements to these companies and ask for help. Plug and Play, Launch Garage, we make it easy. We try to reduce the friction to make that happen. Now, your question about how far have we gone? Um, we've we've established the corporate partnerships with some enterprise players in the Philippines. Plug and Play obviously is light years ahead of us. But in the Philippines, we've managed to establish some relationships with some enterprise players, local investment sources as well, local VCs, local investors, angel networks, and mentors composed of founders that have gone through the entrepreneurial journey before. Um, and mentors coming from enterprise space as well. So people that are good at finance, people that are good at banking, people that are good at marketing, etc. So those things we've put together already. Now it's just a matter of expanding that base and connecting. I think we've also connected our local ecosystem with ecosystems around the region, Southeast Asia. So that's another thing that we've managed to do. Um, but on the innovation side, there's a lot of work to do because especially the grassroots innovation coming from the universities, inventions, etc. Um, uh, how to solve that? It may be a combination of working with education, academe, private sector to help fuel the cash and the demand for certain innovation. Those are things that we have to be doing the next, I guess, 12 months, 24 months. Maybe we should start focusing on that, and we are. We're working with business incubators in the various universities around the country, try to spot these innovators and try to lift them up in terms of maturity level.
And
Um,
Jojo, just to add to that, because you mentioned, Jay's mentioned academia, and you're a proud graduate yourself of the University of the Philippines, correct?
Yes, yes.
So it's a good story. I know it's maybe a while ago, not giving away your age, but it's something that should inspire those who are still studying at the local universities to see what can be achieved if you put your mind to it, right?
Definitely. At least with Plug and Play, we love universities. Every Friday we have a sponsored event where we feature startups coming out of universities from all around the U.S. It's something that we're building here in Asia as well. And as Jay mentioned, there are over 30 technology business incubators in the country, which is based out of universities. This is under the Department of Science and Technology incubation program. And this year, we have committed Launch Garage to spot graduates, spot potential startups coming out of the graduates of these technology business incubators. And we plan to accelerate anywhere from 20 to 30 of these teams. I don't know if we can call them startups yet, right? But teams, 20 to 30 of them per year. So, and on top of that, Jay and I are also putting a early stage investment fund together that can possibly support these startups as well. And hopefully, we can find our unicorns here. The country doesn't have a unicorn yet. And we almost have one, with Mint. But we don't have a real organically grown, hopefully coming out of the university kind of a unicorn yet. I mean, one of our unicorn companies called Soundhound. I remember the day they walked in, four of them, four doctors from Stanford University in sound technology. Immediately, you could tell they were smart guys, and we were really lucky to engage with them and invest in them. And they were one of the investees of Daimler. When they went through the acceleration program in Germany, they after their technology is being used inside the car for voice recognition, and the Daimler invested 50 million euros in them, taking them to a billion euro valuation. So, and I remember
Likewise,
them
thank
walk, like it was yesterday in 2006, coming into Plug and Play, and still close to the founder. I think I should, because I introduced his wife to him. But these are the sort of stories I'd love to tell someday in the Philippine context.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you, Jojo, and thank you, Jay, for joining us today. It's been fascinating listening to, your stories, Jojo, and in particular, Jay, what you're going through at Medify. And it sounds like you're well underway in building a fantastic ecosystem. In some ways, it feels like a call to action to our listeners at PBEC and beyond to get involved. If you would like to find out more, then obviously you can contact us via our website. Also, you can obviously reach out to myself or Miguel directly. But it's been a fascinating insights to the Philippines, which kicks off a wonderful series as we go around APEC. And with that, I release you for your duties today, and thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for all those who are listening out there. Thank you very much.
The Value Prop Show is brought to you by PBEC, the Pacific Basin Economic Council. Your co-hosts are Miguel Aboitiz and Michael Walsh from PBEC. Produced by Salon Films, a member of PBEC. You can follow us and subscribe on our LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Thanks for watching and listening, and see you in the next episode.